There was no sign of Natalie. "Your Honor," Jack said, his voice resonating with conviction, "we have proof that Mr. Thompson has tried to manipulate his children and turn them against their mother." The judge, a stern-looking woman in her 50s, nodded gravely. "We have irrefutable evidence that Mr. Thompson has engaged in extramarital affairs and has misused marital—" Ethan's lawyer, a dapper-looking man in a fancy suit, got up and said, "I have reviewed the evidence, Mr. Stevens, and I must say it is quite compelling." "Your Honor, this so-called evidence is nothing more than hearsay and speculation," he said. I was infuriated by his remarks. "My client is a loving husband and father who has been unfairly maligned by his spiteful ex-wife. How dare he portray me as the antagonist in this tale?" Jack, however, was prepared for him. "With all due respect, Your Honor, the evidence speaks for itself. We have photographic proof of Mr. Thompson's financial misconduct and infidelity, as well as bank statements and credit card receipts. This is not rumors or conjecture. It is fact." The judge nodded, her eyes narrowing as she turned to Ethan. "Mr. Ursay, what can you say to defend yourself, Thompson?" Ethan rose to his feet, a mask of righteous outrage on his face. "Your Honor, I have been a loving and devoted father and husband. The accusations made by my wife are cruel and without merit. She is simply trying to punish me for finding happiness with another woman." I couldn't hold back a bitter laugh. "Happiness? Ethan, is that what you call it? Betraying your family, stealing from our children's future in order to finance your dirty business?" With a furious expression, the judge struck her gavel. "The court's order." "Mr. I've heard enough, Thompson. There is a ton of evidence against you." Ethan's face went white with horror as he said, "I am granting Mrs. Thompson's petition for divorce, and I am awarding her a substantial portion of your shared assets as restitution for your financial malfeasance and infidelity." "You can't do this, Your Honor. I'll be ruined." The judge gave him a stern look. "Actions have consequences. You should have considered that before you decided to betray your family, Mr. Thompson." As the judge made her decision public, I felt a wave of vindication. I had finally prevailed after months of suffering and treachery. Ethan was going to pay for his actions. With a faint smile on his face, Jack drew me aside as we exited the courthouse. "Valerie, congratulations. You succeeded. You defended yourself and your kids, and you prevailed." I gave him a hug, while tears of joy and appreciation filled my eyes. "Jack, I couldn't have succeeded without you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart." I felt a wave of liberation as I emerged into the brilliant sunlight. The horror was at last over, and I could begin a new life on my own terms, free from Ethan's deceit and manipulation. Then I noticed Natalie, standing on the steps of the courthouse, her expression a mask of shock and incredulity. "Ethan!" With a shaky voice she shouted out, "What happened? What's going on?" I watched as Ethan walked past her, his head bowed in defeat. "It's finished, Natalie. We're finished." "I've lost everything," Natalie said, her face sagging with grief. "But what about us? What about our shared future?" Ethan's voice was angry as he shook his head. "Natalie, there is no future. You'd better find someone else to leech off of." I watched as Natalie fell to the ground, crying uncontrollably, and I felt a sick sort of satisfaction at witnessing her pain. I'm broke, and I'm alone. I was ready to move on and start a new life for myself and my kids, but really, I was just tired of the lies, the betrayal, and the never-ending arguments. She had contributed to the breakdown of my family, and now she was receiving what she deserved. I left the courthouse with my head held high, having won the fight, and Ethan and Natalie had destroyed themselves, leaving me free. I was a fighter, a survivor, and nothing could stop me now. I was free to start over, free to find my own happiness, and I knew with an abrupt, unwavering conviction that I would. A year after the divorce, I was finally beginning to feel like myself again, with a new home, a successful business, and a sense of calm that I hadn't experienced in years as I sat in my new apartment, surrounded by boxes and the relics of my former existence. Olivia and Emma, who had been estranged since the divorce and were having a hard time accepting their father's treachery and their own part in the split, were the last loose ends that needed to be tied up. I was ready to move on and start a new life for myself and my kids, but really I was just tired of the lies, the betrayal, and the never-ending arguments. She had contributed to the breakdown of my family, and now she was receiving what she deserved. I left the courthouse with my head held high, having won the fight, and Ethan and Natalie had destroyed themselves, leaving me free. I was a fighter, a survivor, and nothing could stop me now. I was free to start over, free to find my own happiness, and I knew with an abrupt, unwavering conviction that I would. A year after the divorce, I was finally beginning to feel like myself again, with a new home, a successful business, and a sense of calm that I hadn't experienced in years as I sat in my new apartment, surrounded by boxes and the relics of my former existence. Olivia and Emma, who had been estranged since the divorce and were having a hard time accepting their father's treachery and their own part in the split, were the last loose ends that needed to be tied up. "I understand, sweetie. I apologize as well." Emma shook her head, her eyes mournful. "I should have stood by you, should have fought harder to shield you from your father's lies." I reached out and took their hands in mine, saying, "It's not your fault, Mom. We were the ones who believed him, who turned against you. We were so stupid." "Emma, you weren't foolish. A man who was meant to love and protect you deceived you." Olivia's face sagged, tears streaming down her cheeks. "That's on him, not you." I squeezed her hand, feeling sorry for my children, saying, "But now we're paying the price. Dad's business with Natalie failed and he's broke. He can't afford to pay for our college tuition." "I understand, sweetie, but together we'll figure it out. I've been setting aside funds for your education, and we'll look for grants and scholarships, no matter what. You're not alone in this." Emma's hopeful eyes gazed up at me. "Really? You'd do that for us, after everything we put you through?" I smiled, pulling them both into a tight hug. "Of that I would. I love you more than anything in the world because you are my daughters." We stayed there for a while, holding each other and sobbing, allowing the agony and anguish of the previous year to wash over us. "No matter what happens, I will always be here for you." And I felt a calmness descend upon me as we discussed, made plans, and fantasized about the future. We would walk the long road together, even though it was ahead of us. I banded up with my girls to fight the world. Olivia glanced to me that evening as they were leaving, her expression solemn. "Mom, I know we can't change the past, but we want to make things right. We want to be a part of your life again, if you'll have us." I smiled, pulling her into one last hug. "Of course, my child. Nothing will ever erase the fact that you are my family." As I watched them leave, I had a sense of possibility and hope that I hadn't felt in a long time. I was prepared to take up the bright future head-on. Natalie and Ethan had attempted, but failed, to ruin me. My girls' love and support demonstrated that I was stronger than they could have ever guessed. My name was Valerie Thompson, and I could not be stopped. I felt a wave of pleasure and success as I stepped in the lobby of my new office building. I had established a successful interior design firm that exceeded my expectations in the 5 years since the divorce. Beside me, my daughters, who were now grown and prosperous in their own right, stood with proud smiles on their faces. "This is incredible, Mom!" Emma exclaimed in awe-filled tones. "You've come so far," I said with a smile while holding her hand. "I couldn't have done it without you and your sister, baby. We've all come so far." Olivia nodded, her eyes hazy. "Mom, you have our utmost admiration." I couldn't help but think back on the path that led me here. The hurt, the betrayal, the countless nights of tears and uncertainty. But I had come out stronger, more resilient, and more determined than ever to forge my own path, and I had achieved more than I could have ever imagined. As we celebrated the grand opening of my new office, surrounded by friends, coworkers, and clients, I felt a tap on my shoulder. "You are an inspiration to us both." Sophia, my best friend who was always there for me, was standing there grinning knowingly when I turned around. "Congratulations, Val!" she exclaimed, embracing me tightly. With tears stinging the corners of my eyes, I gave her a hug in return. "You did it. You showed them all. Without you, Soph, I couldn't have succeeded. You have been my pillar of support during this entire ordeal." She withdrew, her expression solemn. I had a brief moment of anxiety, but I forced it away as I said, "I have some news, Val, about Ethan." "What about Ethan?" "He was a part of my past, a faraway recollection that no longer had any influence over me." Sophia inhaled deeply. "Helen, he's broke." "I had moved on, built a new life for myself," I said, feeling a brief sense of satisfaction at the news that his business with Natalie had failed and that he had been struggling to make ends meet, even having to move back in with his parents. I didn't care about Ethan's future anymore. Even in my voice, I said, "I'm sorry to hear that, but it's no longer my problem. He made his decisions and now he must deal with the repercussions." Sophia nodded, grinning proudly. "Val, you're correct. You've moved on and created something truly remarkable. Don't let him pull you back down." As the celebration went on all around us, I experienced a wave of calm. I had overcome my past, fought my demons, and come out on top. I was no longer the broken, shattered woman I had been, but a strong, self-assured, prosperous one. As the evening unfolded, Olivia and Emma gently pulled me aside, their faces etched with emotion. "Mom, we want to apologize," Olivia began, her voice trembling, "for everything we put you through, for not standing by you when you needed us the most." Her words pierced my heart, but they were a balm, too, a long overdue acknowledgement of the struggles we had endured. I shook my head and wrapped them both in a fierce embrace. "My loves, there's nothing to apologize for. We've all stumbled along the way, but those missteps led us here. We've grown, we've learned, and that's all that matters now." Emma's eyes glistened with tears as she added, "And look at us now, together, stronger than we've ever been. We're a family again, Mum." As the evening unfolded, Olivia and Emma gently pulled me aside, their faces etched with emotion. "Mom, we want to apologize," Olivia began, her voice trembling, "for everything we put you through, for not standing by you when you needed us the most." Her words pierced my heart, but they were a balm, too, a long overdue acknowledgement of the struggles we had endured. I shook my head and wrapped them both in a fierce embrace. "My loves, there's nothing to apologize for. We've all stumbled along the way, but those missteps led us here. We've grown, we've learned, and that's all that matters now." Emma's eyes glistened with tears as she added, "And look at us now, together, stronger than we've ever been. We're a family again, Mom." In that moment, as the cool night breeze whispered through the air, I knew with an unshakable certainty that nothing could ever tear me down again. The battles of the past had only fortified my soul. This was what truly mattered: family, love, and the strength to rise no matter how hard life tried to knock you down. If you found this story inspiring, be sure to subscribe to the SoraBook channel for more heartfelt and empowering tales in our upcoming videos. The journey doesn't end here. There's so much more to discover. As I read Ethan's text, my heart stopped. "I'd like a divorce." The words echoed in my mind, surreal and gut-wrenching. After 20 years of marriage, he decides to tell me this now? With trembling palms and a pounding heart, I rushed into the living room, my thoughts racing with disbelief. "Ethan, what on earth is this?" I demanded, holding back tears. He looked up from his laptop, his face an unreadable mask of indifference. "Valerie, it's exactly what it says. I'd like a divorce." "Why?" I stammered, my voice breaking under the weight of emotions I could no longer suppress. "Why now, after all these years?" Ethan let out an exaggerated sigh, as though this life-altering conversation were merely a tedious interruption. "My coworker Natalie and I have been having an affair," he said, his tone disturbingly matter-of-fact. The world seemed to tilt on its axis as his words sank in. Natalie, the young, stunning blonde who always seemed glued to Ethan's side at company events. "For how long?" I choked out, barely able to speak. 6 months, he admitted without a trace of guilt. Then, as if to twist the knife further, he added, "To answer your question, she'll be moving here soon. Please pack your things and leave." My blood boiled with a fury I hadn't known I possessed. "Then," I said, my voice shaking but resolute, "this is also my home." The tension in the room was palpable, the air thick with betrayal and heartbreak. This was not how 20 years of love and commitment were supposed to end, yet here I was, facing a man who seemed like a stranger. The world seemed to tilt on its axis as his words sank in. Natalie, the young, stunning blonde who always seemed glued to Ethan's side at company events. For how long? I choked out, barely able to speak. 6 months, he admitted without a trace of guilt. Then, as if to twist the knife further, he added, "To answer your question, she'll be moving here soon. Please, pack your things and leave." My blood boiled with the fury I hadn't known I possessed. "Ethan," I said, my voice shaking but resolute, "this is also my home." The tension in the room was palpable, the air thick with betrayal and heartbreak. This was not how 20 years of love and commitment were supposed to end. Yet here I was, facing a man who seemed like a stranger. I couldn't stop the sobbing from ripping my body as I got into my car. How could he harm me like this? To our household? For hours I drove without direction, my thoughts whirling with uncertainties and anxieties. Where would I go? What would I say to Emma and Olivia? How was I going to handle the shame of being passed over for a younger woman? I was parked outside Sophia's house as the sun started to drop. Her eyes widened as she saw my tear-streaked face as she opened the door. "Val, what took place?" The words poured out of me as I fell into her arms. "Ethan, I'm losing him. For his colleague. I should leave the house, he says." Sophia's voice was harsh, and she held me close. "That jerk. I've always sensed that something was wrong with him. Val, don't worry. Together we will overcome this obstacle. He will not escape punishment for this." I knew my best friend was correct as I sobbed in her arms. I would defend what was rightfully mine. I would prove to Ethan that I wasn't a helpless, pitiful woman he could ignore. He didn't know with whom he was playing. This was only the start. Fearing the talk I was about to have with my daughters, I entered the house. With their faces buried in their phones, Olivia and Emma sat at the kitchen table. As I walked in, their faces were unreadable as they looked up. Olivia arched an eyebrow and said, "Girls, we need to talk," my voice quivering a little. "Is this about Dad's new girlfriend?" It was as if someone had punched me in the stomach. You know about Natalie?" Emma rolled her eyes. "We know, Mom, of course. We are not foolish. And you're good with this?" I questioned incredulously, "since Dad has been spending all of his time with her for months." Olivia shrugged. "Why wouldn't we be? Dad is content. Natalie is pleasant." It hurt to hear her say, "And really, Mom, it's not like you've been around much anyway." "What's that supposed to mean?" "You're always working," said Emma. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own girls were turning against me. "You're never here for us. Dad has been there, taking us to school, helping with homework. You're too busy with your precious clients." "I put a lot of effort into supporting this family," I responded, raising my voice. Olivia sneered. "Everything I do is for you girls." "Yeah, right. The idea of your father being content with someone else is simply unbearable, Mom. You're self-centered." My eyes pinched with tears. "You always have been." "I love you both more than anything," Emma remarked icily. "How can you say that? If you truly loved us, you would want us to be happy." I felt like my heart was being torn out of my chest, my own flesh and blood supporting their unfaithful father and his mistress. "And we're happy with Dad and Natalie. We don't need you. Didn't Ethan put you through this?" With a sudden revelation, I said. Olivia sprang up, her face contorted in rage, and said, "No one put us up to anything. He's been poisoning you against me. We've decided that we want to live with Dad and Natalie since we're old enough to make our own decisions. You're no longer welcome here." I staggered back, tears clouding my vision. "You don't mean that," Emma said, standing next to her sister with her arms folded. With my heart in a million pieces, I ran out of the house and sank onto the front lawn, sobbing violently, saying, "We do. Get out, Mom, and don't come back." Ethan had done this, and as I lay there, overcome with grief and treachery, a tiny spark of rage grew inside of me. How could everything have fallen apart so quickly? My husband, my girls, my entire life, all gone in the blink of an eye. Natalie, that cunning little bitch, had played along, posing as their friend while she tore our family apart. and he had turned my own children against me, using them to further his own self-interest. I pushed myself up off the ground and wiped away my tears. I would battle for what was rightfully mine and hold them accountable for their actions. I would not allow them to get away with this. "Hello, this is Valerie," I stated in a firm, resolute voice as I took out my phone and phoned the number of the top divorce lawyer in town. "I need your assistance. I want to take him for everything he's got. My husband has been cheating on me and has turned my daughters against me." As I hung up the phone, I felt a sense of purpose wash over me. I would come out of this stronger than ever. What about Natalie and Ethan? I sat in my lawyer's office with my hands tight in my lap while he went over the documents I had brought him, bank statements, credit card bills, and receipts, all proof of Ethan's treachery. "Well, Mrs. Thompson," he said, looking up from the papers, "it seems your husband has been quite busy." I nodded, my jaw clenched. "They would regret the day they ever crossed me," he said. "For months he has been stealing money from our joint account. I didn't know until I started looking into it." My lawyer, Jack, who had a keen eye, leaned back in his chair. "And what do you think he's been doing with his brief affair with Natalie, naturally? Expensive presents, lavish dinners, and weekend retreats. He's been having a good time while I've been working really hard to support our family." Jack nodded, his face sad. "I understand. How about your joint assets? Your house, your cash?" I took a deep breath, recalling the exchange I had heard between Natalie and Ethan. "He intends to use everything we've created together to launch a new company with her." Jack's brows tightened as he said, "He wants to leave me with nothing, not on my watch." "He won't. We'll make sure you get what you're entitled to, Mrs. Thompson. Every last penny." I felt a wave of gratitude towards this man, who seemed to be the only one on my side. "Thank you so much, Jack." There was a steely edge to his smile, but it said, "I don't know what I'd do without you." We spent the next hour going over the information I had obtained and constructing a case against Ethan. "Thank you," I said after we had taken your spouse to the dry cleaners. "Now let's talk strategy." Jack was certain that we could demonstrate both his financial misdeeds and infidelity. There would be multiple ways for him to pay for his actions. A feeling of purpose filled my veins as I walked out of the office. I refused to be destroyed by Ethan. I would give it my all in the battle back. Sophia texted me, and my phone chimed. I scribbled off a quick reply. "How'd it go with the lawyer?" "Better than I could have hoped." She responded right away. "We're going to make Ethan regret the day he ever met Natalie." "That's my girl. Val, I'm very proud of you." I grinned and felt a wave of love for my best friend. "You're a fighter." Throughout it all, she had been my pillar of support, never faltering. Without her, I'm not sure how I would have made it. I saw a picture of myself in the rearview mirror as I got into my car. My complexion was pale and drawn, and my eyes were puffy and red from crying. However, I noticed a fire in my eyes that had never been there before, an unwavering resolve to see this through to completion. I reflected about my beloved daughters, Olivia and Emma, who had been so readily influenced by their father's deceptions. I would be honest with them. I would show them the true nature of the man. And that cunning little snake, Natalie, she believed she could simply walk into my life and take everything away from me, including my husband and family. She was in for another surprise, though. I'd show her for the home wrecker she was, a gold digger. I had a wave of tranquility as I pulled out of the parking lot. I was prepared for the battle, even though I still had a long way to go. Natalie and Ethan didn't know who they were up against. I wouldn't be broken because I was Valerie Thompson. My heart was racing as Jack pushed a folder across the desk from where I sat. "We've got him, Valerie," he declared, his eyes shining triumphantly. I opened the folder with shaking hands and my eyes widened as I took in the contents. The evidence of Ethan's infidelity and financial misconduct is irrefutable. Bank statements displaying significant transfers from our joint account to Natalie's personal one, pictures of Ethan and Natalie cuddling, and receipts for expensive presents and hotel stays. Everything was there in black and white. I had a wave of relief that was swiftly followed by a twist of rage. "He can't wriggle out of this," Jack said, leaning back in his chair. "We have him dead to rights." "I want him to pay Jack For everything he's done to me and our family. Jack nodded gravely. He will, Valerie. I promise you that. My phone buzzed with an incoming call exactly at that moment, and I looked at the screen, my stomach sinking when I saw Sophia's name. I apologize. I said, I have to take this, and left the office. Sophia's voice was tight with rage as she asked, Val, have you seen the posts on Facebook? What posts? With a sinking heart, I asked. Ethan has been spreading false information about you on social media, claiming that you are an unfit mother and that you cheated. It felt like a punch to the gut. That bastard, I said, trembling. It made me smile to think that Sophia would stand up for me. He's trying to turn everyone against me. Don't worry, Val, Sophia responded angrily. I've been setting the record right, blogging about what a lying, cheating scumbag he is. And I've got the receipts to back it up. You realize that you're the best friend a girl could ask for? She answered. Damn right I am, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Now tell me what your lawyer said, I said, enraged by every word as I told her about the evidence Jack had found. Soph, he will not get away with this. I'm not going to let him to. Damn straight, she answered. You're a fighter, Val. You've got this, I said as I hung up. Feeling more determined than ever, Ethan was free to tell as many lies as he pleased. The truth was on my side. With my head held high, I strode back into Jack's office. I answered steadily, Let's do this. I'm ready to file for divorce. Jack grinned, appreciation shining in his eyes. I'll get the paperwork prepared right now. Ethan won't know what hit him. I couldn't help but feel excited as I walked out of the office. I was prepared for the battle, even if the path ahead would not be simple. Ethan had chosen to play pranks with the wrong woman. With plans and strategies flying through my head, I drove to Sophia's house. Before I could even knock, she opened the door and embraced me tightly. With her voice muffled behind my shoulder, she added, We're going to make him pay, Val, for everything he's done to you. I gave her a hug in return, feeling a wave of appreciation for this incredible woman who had supported me through thick and thin. Soph, I couldn't have done this without you. I assume you are aware of that. She withdrew, tears gleaming in her eyes. Baby, that's the purpose of let's start working now. I felt a wave of serenity come over me as we sat at her kitchen table, going over the evidence and planning our next course of action. I had the truth, I had the law, and my closest friend at my side. We've got a lying, cheating bastard to take down. Ethan was seated on the couch with his arms slung loosely around Natalie's shoulders, but he had no chance. I rushed into the house with the divorce papers clenched in my fist. With a mixture of astonishment and annoyance on their faces, they both looked up as I walked in. What the hell are you doing here, Valerie? Ethan stood forward and asked. With my eyes burning with rage, I flung the documents at his feet, saying, I thought I made it clear you weren't welcome anymore. You dishonest, cheating jerk. I'm here to serve you with divorce papers. Natalie's cheeks turned pale as her eyes grew wide. I laughed harshly and bitterly. Divorce papers? Ethan, what's going on? Oh, he hasn't informed you? In order to finance your little love nest? Your precious Ethan has been siphoning money from our joint account. Ethan's face contorted in rage as he said, And that's just the tip of the iceberg. You have no proof of that. It's just your word against mine. I grinned triumphantly and icily. I actually have a ton of evidence. I have pictures of you two together, bank statements and credit card receipts. My lawyer has it all. Olivia and Emma decided to enter at that precise moment, their expressions bewildered and cautious. What's happening on, Mom? Emma inquired. I turned to face them, and the sight of their naive faces broke my heart. We females have been duped by your father. Olivia's expression hardened as she said, He has been cheating on me with Natalie and stealing money from our family to do it. That's untrue. Dad would never do that, I said, shaking my head as tears welled up in my eyes. I apologize, sweetie, but it's the truth. Ethan moved forward, his face a mask of rage, and said, I have proof. He's been taking advantage of you and turning you against me. Girls, don't listen to her. It sounded harsh and bitter as I chuckled. She's just trying to turn you against me. She's been neglecting this family, not me. Natalie got up, her face flushed with rage, and said, "Don't talk to him like that. I've been working my ass off to provide for this family while you've been off playing house with your little girlfriend. Ethan likes these females and he loves me." With my eyes sparkling, I turned on her and said, "You're just a jealous, resentful woman who can't stand to see him happy." "You keep your mouth quiet, you little piece of sabotage. You believe you can simply walk in here and take my husband and my family? Well, reconsider." Ethan moved between us, his face contorted in a sneer, saying, "I'm not going down without a fight." "Valerie, you're pathetic. Do you honestly believe you can defeat me? The females are on my side. I also have Natalie. What do you have?" "Nothing," I said with a smile, a deadly, frigid thing. "Ethan, the law is on my side, and I have the truth." I turned to the females, my heart exploding at the look of bewilderment and anguish on their faces. "You can try to manipulate and lie your way out of this, but in the end the truth will come out, and you'll be left with nothing. I know this is difficult to hear, but I love you both more than anything in the world. However, your father is not who you believe him to be." Olivia's face twisted, tears streaming down her cheeks as she said, "He's a liar and a cheat, and he doesn't deserve your loyalty." "Believe in yourself, baby," I said, reaching out and embracing her. "I don't know what to believe anymore." Emma walked forward with a determined expression on her face and said, "Believe in what you know is right, and know that I will always, always be here for you, no matter what." "Mom, I trust you." With pride and love filling my heart, I gave her a deep hug and said, "I'm sorry I ever doubted you." With harsh, steely eyes, I turned back to Ethan and Natalie and said, "It's okay, baby. We're going to get through this together. Ethan, I'm going to make sure you pay for what you did, and I'm going to file for divorce." The war had only just begun, but I was prepared for it. "You chose the wrong woman to mess with," I said, turning on my heel and leaving with my head held high. Natalie and Ethan had no idea what they were up against. As Jack made our case to the judge, I sat in the courtroom with my heart racing, while Ethan sat on the opposite side of the chamber, his countenance a mask of contempt and haughtiness.